Good morning, everybody. How are you doing today? Great to see you all. My name is Vince. I'm the lead pastor here at the Bridge. We are in part 3 of a 4-part series called, what's it called? Thanks for being here. Again, thanks for coming and sitting in a row. Thanks for watching online. Thanks for watching this even later in the week, wherever you're tuning in. We're glad that you are here. If you missed previous weeks of this series, or if you just can't really remember what the sermon was about over the last couple weeks, I get it. Sometimes in our life group, people will be like, remember when you said that thing on Sunday? And I'm like, nope. I don't. So if you ever can't remember the sermon from the week before, sometimes I can't remember the sermon from the week before. So let me catch everybody up on what we've been talking about in this series. Week 1, we said there's a part of all of us that says, I gotta get it together. Anybody saying that today? Man, I gotta get it together. I gotta get it together at home, with my spouse, with my kids, with my finances. I gotta get it together at work. I gotta get it together with my friend group, in my dating life, in my physical health, in my mental health, in my spiritual well-being. I gotta get it together. Some of you are in church today because you know you gotta get it together. If you are saying I gotta get it together, you are in the right place. I think the Bridge is a church for people saying to themselves, man, I gotta get it together. If you don't have to get it together, you might be in the wrong place. This is a place for people who don't have it together and are trying their best to get it together, myself included. However, as we try to get it together, oftentimes we don't realize that getting it together and life together are very closely intertwined. Through this series, we've been looking at a book of the Bible called Galatians. Everybody say Galatians. It was written by a guy named Paul to a group of people called the Galatians. They couldn't get it together, similarly to how we so often feel like we can't get it together. And when Paul wrote to them, he said, you got to understand the connection between getting it together and life together. We learned week 1 that we weren't designed to get it together alone. We were designed to get it together. Let's try that one more time. We're designed to get it together. That's exactly right. We said we get it together through life together. Now, we might often think, if I got to get it together, I need amazing people around me who can love me and help me get it together. But Paul actually said, if you need to get it together, it actually works the opposite way. It's not about finding the perfect people to love you. It's about you being the kind of person who is there to love others. We get it together and keep it together, not by finding people to love us, but by loving others through life together. That's why we do life together, because we have to get our eyes off of ourselves, off of our own junk, and onto the good of other people if we ever want to get it together. That was basically the summary of week 1. Week 2, we said, listen, life together doesn't, what's that word that's highlighted? Automatically help us get it together. Because sometimes life together can be life-giving or life-destroying. How many of you know that Christian people sometimes are not the greatest? Sometimes we can be pretty brutal. And some of you have done life together with other people claiming to follow Jesus and genuinely following Jesus, and it was a horror movie. It was a horror show because of the backbiting and the jealousy and the gossip and the judgment and all of the mess that we so often get ourselves into. Paul, the guy who wrote Galatians, said, yeah, that's often how it is. Life together is what you need to change your life, but life together can also ruin your life. Paul said life together sometimes looks like this, biting and devouring each other. Remember, like some zombies. Biting and devouring each other as we do life together, but it can also look like this, life-giving life together. And Paul said, here's the big picture, how to discern and how to walk towards the right side of the screen, or for you, the right side of the screen, right? Paul said, if you are led by the Spirit, you will always be led towards life-giving life together. If you are led by the flesh or the law, you will be led towards life-destroying life together. If you're not sure what those words are, you can go back and watch the previous sermons. We explain all about what that means. But Paul basically says, listen, this is a high-risk, high-reward scenario, doing life together. It can completely change your life or completely ruin your life, but the only way forward is life-giving life together. Now, thankfully, he doesn't just leave us there and say, just figure it out among yourselves. He lays out a blueprint. for life-giving life together, for life together led by the Holy Spirit. So each week now, we're talking about one key to life-giving life together. My hope, my prayer is that through this series, either in the current friend group you have, or if you join a life group, that you would know, okay, I get how to do life together in a way that we can actually help each other get it together rather than ruin each other's lives. Last week, we talked about the first key to that kind of life together. Does anyone remember what it is? It was get blank and then get blank. Get transparent was a big part of it. Do you remember the big thing that was on top of this screen? Get real and get real and get restored. Everyone say get real. Everyone say get restored. Are you ready for key number 2? If you're ready, say I'm ready. If you're ready, say one more time, I'm ready. The second key to life-giving life together is this: get strong and get weak. What's that mean? We're about to find out. Everybody say get strong. Everybody say get weak. Turn to your neighbor and say get strong. Turn to your other neighbor and say I love you just as much even though I did not turn to you first. And then say get weak. All together, get strong. All together, get weak. Before I explain to you what that means, let me show you from the passage what it's talking about, and then we'll define what this means. The verse we looked at last week, Galatians 6, chapter 1, Paul said, if a brother or sister is caught in sin, you who are spiritual should restore that person gently. That was the get real and get restored, helping each other overcome the sin that we find ourselves caught in. This is the very next verse that Paul says in the blueprint of Galatians. He says, carry each other's what? Carry each other's burdens. This is the next stage of the blueprint. What's a burden? A burden are these cinder blocks of life that weigh us down. You may want people to think you have no burdens, but I know that you have burdens because we all have burdens. Some of our burdens are very heavy. 3 cinder block burdens are sometimes what we're facing day to day. Some of you are here weighed down by a 3 cinder block burden. There are divorce papers on your kitchen table waiting for you, or you're going to see them this week for the first time. You got a call from the doctor, and time stood still as you heard the diagnosis. You found out that one of your kids relapsed and is going to have to go back to rehab, and you're praying that they do. You lost a baby in a miscarriage, or your spouse had a miscarriage, right? So many of us go through our days, our weeks, weighed down by burdens. Paul says, you were not meant to carry those burdens alone. You were meant to carry them what? Together. We were meant to carry them how? Together, right? That's what he's saying. He's saying all this weight was not designed for just you. It was designed to be carried with other people who are going down the same path as you. But he does not say just the big burdens. He doesn't say carry each other's big burdens. He doesn't just say carry each other's small burdens. I think he means carry each other's all burdens, right? Some of us have a 1 cinder block burden. You got to homeschool your kids for the beginning of this year because of COVID. Some of y'all are like, that's an 8-brick burden, actually. Some of you have a tough boss, a tough coworker, and it's just this thing that's weighing on you, and you go, I don't need any help with that. I can carry that alone. But Paul says you were not designed to carry those little burdens alone either. We were designed to carry those little burdens how? Together, all together. And a lot of us, and this is in some ways maybe the toughest one, is the in-between 2-brick burdens. You got some depression, some anxiety, and you're trying to figure out, am I supposed to go on medication to help this? I've never been on medication before. I don't know if I should or I shouldn't. I don't know what the Bible says. Who do I talk about that to? And you're going through your day with those bricks weighing you down. You've got a little bit of a substance problem. It's not yet at the point where it's ruining your life, but you know it's something that is holding you back, and you're going, who do I talk about that to? That's weighing me down. You're in a relationship, a dating relationship that you're not quite sure if God actually wants you in. You're not sure if it's the best, and you're just trying to act like, oh, yeah, he's fine, she's fine, I think, but I don't really know. But it's this thing weighing on you in the back of your mind, and you're going, I can just carry this burden alone. You were not meant to carry that burden alone. We were meant to carry these burdens how? Together. That is exactly right. Paul says carry each other's burdens. Now check this out. Why is our big idea get what? And get strong and get what? Because sometimes I do that. It's just more confusing. You're like, which one are we supposed to say? Y'all are doing great. You're doing great. You're doing great. I got to set you up a little better some of these times. But here's what I'm saying. When Paul says carry these burdens, we have to get strong and get weak. Here's what I mean. We have to get strong enough to say, I'm here for you. I will carry that weight with you. I will walk through life with you, and we will figure this out together, linked arm in arm. I've got some of my own burdens, but I will walk through life with you and help you lift your burdens. We got to get strong, but we also have to get weak. What do I mean by that? We got to be humble, vulnerable, transparent, open enough to say, yeah, I got some burdens. I think sometimes it is harder to admit burdens than to admit sin. I don't know why that is. I think there's a part of us that says if it's not a sin, if it's just something that's weighing me down, I should be strong enough to carry this alone. But if we're called to carry each other's burdens, we got to get strong, and we also have to get weak. If everybody gets strong, but nobody gets weak, there's going to be no carrying going on. Because we don't know what's going on in each other's lives. We got to get strong, and we got to get what? Weak. Okay, for Paul, this is a big deal. Look what he says next. He says, carry each other's burdens, and in this way you will, say those 5 words with me, fulfill the law of Christ. What's he talking about? I believe he's referring back to when Jesus said, I have a new command for you. Before Jesus rose from the dead and ascended into heaven, when he had been working with his disciples and doing ministry, he sat them all down and he said, new plan, new command, new thing I want you all to do. He said, a new command I give you, love one another. And then he took it to the next level and he said, as I have loved you, so you must love one another. This is one of Jesus' most famous commands. Even if you're not normally a church person, you've maybe heard this before. Jesus says, as I have loved you, so you must love one another. Now check this out. Jesus, when he brought this command, said that as we obey this command, the world takes notice. Sometimes we think we make our biggest impression as followers of Jesus when we love the world. But Jesus says the way the world will recognize that we have something that they need is not by how we love the world only, but how we love each other. He says, by this, everyone will know that you are my disciples if you say those 3 words, love one another. Jesus calls us to love each other. And Paul says, this new commandment that Jesus gave you, that's fulfilled when you do this. When you carry each other's burdens, we fulfill in some ways the primary commandment that Jesus gave us. This is a big deal to Paul. It's a big deal to Jesus. It's not an add-on. It's not like, don't do all these things and do all these things. And by the way, if you have time, carry each other's burdens. No, Paul says, if you can learn to carry each other's burdens, you will fulfill the law of Christ. And if we look back to how Jesus described it, it means we fulfill the law of Christ in a way that the world takes notice. The world wants what we have when it sees us carrying each other's burdens. Amen? Okay, this is the difference between life-destroying and life-giving community. Remember, that's what we're talking about. Sometimes we do community in a way that destroys us. Sometimes we do life together in a way that helps us get better. It's all about whether or not we learn to carry. Let me put it this way. A community that cares is a community that what? Carries. When people say, nobody cared. I went to a church and nobody cared. I went through something hard and nobody cared. What they're saying is nobody carried the burden with me. Nobody cares means nobody carrying. And on the flip side, on the positive side, when people say, man, God is amazing, and Christians are amazing, and I want more of Jesus, what they're saying is that people care, meaning people carry. When we start doing life together and things happen that weigh us down and burden us, and we don't know how to carry those burdens for each other, we become a life-destroying community because we all feel totally left alone and isolated. But when we learn to carry the burdens, that's when God can do some amazing things through life together. We're breaking this down into 2 parts. The rest of this message, we're going to talk about getting strong and then talking about getting weak. We're talking about getting strong first because I think for most of us, getting strong is the easy part. You know, like when you're unloading the groceries from the car and you're like, I can do these all at once. And you're going bag after bag after bag, and then you're like walking over like this. You're like, yes, I will get it all in one trip. Anybody ever do that? Yes, we all do that, right? Nobody wants to do 2 trips. We like the feeling of being strong. And when someone says, here's my burden, we like the idea of being the hero, being the savior, being the helper, being the person to come alongside that person and be strong for them. So I don't want to spend as much time on this one because I know that most of y'all like the idea of doing this. However, I do think that some of you have no idea how. Like somebody walks up to you and says, this is going on at home or at work or in my marriage or with my kids, and you freeze up because you're like, I don't actually know how to help or do anything. And you're like, I want to carry that burden with you, but I just do not know how. So I want everybody to leave this room today feeling confident, feeling like when someone comes to you with their burden, you'll say, I know how to carry that. That sound good? Let me show you right how. Break it down. Anybody can do this. You don't have to be a pastor. You don't have to be a psychologist. You don't have to be a counselor. You don't have to be a therapist. You don't have to be a Bible wizard where you can look up chapter and verse and, quote 10 verses at them to try to carry that burden with them. No. It is simple, simple, simple. Last week we talked about how to help somebody overcome a sin. Remember that we talked about getting sensitively restoring someone, and we had 3 L's. If anybody remembers those L's, man, I will be so impressed. Anyone remember the first one? Oh my goodness. I heard 2 out of the 3 right now. The first one was love. Listen, love, and lead. Yes. Love, listen, lead. That's what it looks like to help someone overcome sin. I'm just doing a quick review and letting you know when we talk about carrying somebody else's burdens, we got 3 L's. Again, are you ready for the first L of getting strong? Anybody guess what it is? It's the same thing. It's the exact same thing. If you learned how to help somebody overcome sin last week, you know most of what you need to know to carry somebody's burden as well. When they say, here's what's weighing me down, you say, I love you. I'm with you. I'm for you. Let me carry that with you. When someone shares something heavy that they're feeling, every part of them feels like this was a mistake. I shouldn't have weighed down this person. I should have burdened them more. I should have just keep this to themselves. So you just say, I love you, and I'm honored that you shared it with me. I love you, and that I'm honored that you shared it with me. This week, if someone shares a burden with you, and you were both in church today, you can just say, I'm going to say what Pastor Vince told me to say. You just say it out loud. You say, yeah, Vince told us to say, I love you, and I'm honored that you shared with me, and then you just say it, and you'll both laugh, and then you'll move on to the next thing. If you do not communicate love, people will not assume love. You have to say it with your mouth. You have to love. Anyone guess the second thing? Listen, it's the same thing. Don't jump into a million pieces of advice, man, more than ever. Don't say, I understand what you're going through, even if you went through the exact same thing. We're getting real practical now. We went out of preacher mode to school mode, right? You're like, oh, this is a step-by-step thing. That's right. Don't give them advice. Don't tell them a bunch of steps they need to do. That will just burden them more, right? You listen, ask some questions. If they don't want to answer questions, then stop asking. But a lot of times when people want to process the burden they're in, it helps to ask some questions. How long has this been going on? How have you been feeling? Have you taken any steps to overcome that burden? Are you talking to other people about this? Just listen. Sad, mad, scared. Those are 3 words you can ask. Do you feel sad, or do you feel mad, or do you feel scared? Sometimes people don't even know how to process what they're feeling, and if you give them some options, sad, mad, scared, they can give you It's an answer that will help them process what they're going through. You love them, you listen. The last one's different. You don't lead them. You don't lead them. Last, everyone say lift them up. One more time, say lift them up. You lift them up in prayer. You bring them to God. Some of you have never prayed out loud before because you think there's some special way you have to pray out loud. You hear other people pray out loud and you're like, they know something I don't know. They're like, it sounds like the Bible when they pray out loud. Listen, Jesus himself said when people pray out loud, sometimes they try to do it in a way that makes themselves look good and spiritual. Pastors are the worst at this. I confess, I've done it, right? God hears your prayers in simple form. It's just a conversation with him. You just say, dear God, I ask that you would help my friend Bob, my friend Amy, my friend Jim, whoever it is. You just lift them up in a simple prayer. I think God likes those the best sometimes. I truly think he does. You love, you listen, you lift them up. You love, you listen, you lift them up. You love them, you listen to them, and you lift them up in the moment. And then you love and you listen and you lift them up as the week goes on. You shoot them a text. You shoot them a call. Say, hey, I've been praying for you. How's it going? I love you. That's it. You do that the next week. You do that the next week. That's what it looks like to carry the burden with that person. It ain't rocket science. It's no magic formula. You just love them, you listen to them, and you pray for them. Amen? That's all it is. When people say people care, this is what they're talking about. They loved me, they listened to me, and they prayed for me. That's all it is. When you need somebody to carry a burden with you, that's what you need. Some of y'all need a little bit more than that from some professional help, right? But besides that, in terms of your friends, you love them, you listen, you lift them up. My personal preference when people are carrying my burdens looks like this. 25% love, 25% listening, and 50% lifting them up. Don't forget to pray. Don't forget to lift the person up in prayer. I can't tell you how many things I know God delivered me from, burdens he lifted because people prayed for me. I swear I can tell when people are praying for me. I'll text somebody and say, hey, I'm feeling really good. Are you praying for me? And they'll say, yep. True. That's all it looks like to get strong. Simple, right? Raise your hand if you feel like you can get strong now, right? Raise it up real high. Feel I can get strong. Tell yourself, say out loud, I can get strong. Say, I will get strong. Yes, that's all it looks like. Get strong. Now we're going to the hard part. We all like getting strong, and none of us like getting weak. None of us like admitting. None of us like sharing. None of us like saying, this is my burden. Here's why. Some of you believe a lie from the pit of hell. And that lie from the pit of hell is that the more you become like Jesus, the less help you need carrying your burdens. Some of you believe, if I could really walk with Jesus, if I could really be a person of faith, I wouldn't need help carrying these. If I'm really a strong, godly, stable, mature person, I can do it all alone. You think the more you become like Jesus, the less help you'll need. Here's the problem. It's the Jesus way to get weak. And I don't mean he told us to get weak. I mean he got weak. Did you ever think about that? Jesus did not just say, carry each other's burdens, but he actually needed other people to carry his burdens. Some of y'all are like, he did? When did he do that? How did that happen? Check it out. The night that Jesus was betrayed, he got weak. In the darkest moment of his life, he got weak. He said, I can't carry this alone. Now, if anybody should have been strong enough to not need help, it should be Jesus, right? As our example, it should be him. But look at this. Then Jesus, this is the night he was betrayed, then Jesus went with his disciples to a place called Gethsemane. There's him and his disciples. And he said to them, sit here while I go over there and pray. Now, at first glance, it looks like, aha, he does go off alone. He does just need to pray. He does just need Jesus and the Father. And that's what I think I need. It's just me and God is all that I need. I don't need help from everybody else, and Jesus didn't either. But watch this. It says he went over there to pray, and he took Peter and the two sons of Zebedee along with him. The two sons of Zebedee were James and John. We got Jesus with his inner circle of friends. Jesus had an inner circle among his 12 followers. He had an inner circle of 3, Peter, James, and John. He goes off with them, and look what happens. And what is that word? He began to be sorrowful and troubled. He always knew he was going to the cross. But in that moment, that is when the burden came down on him. That is when he began to be sorrowful and troubled. Now, this is what we do. When we begin to be sorrowful and troubled, we say, okay, I'm starting to feel this burden. I'm starting to be sorrowful and troubled, so I'm going to carry it alone as long as I possibly can. I'm going to keep it to myself. I'm not going to tell anybody about it until I'm so weighed down that I absolutely need help, or else I'm going to blow up. No, look, the moment he began to be sorrowful and troubled, what did he do? Then he, what's that word? Said to them, my soul is what? Overwhelmed with sorrow to the point of death. Jesus shared. Jesus talked about what he felt. Jesus got weak. He didn't say, I've got some tough stuff coming. Can you guys lift up a prayer for me? And they said, well, what's the tough stuff? And he said, oh, don't worry about it. He didn't say, I'm going through a tough week, but I don't really want to share the details. Can you guys, just say a little prayer for me? No, he said, my soul is overwhelmed with sorrow to the point of death. He shared it all. He talked about his feelings. And not because he was a gosh darn millennial. He was not a millennial. He was God in the flesh. He was God incarnate. He was the strongest person that's ever lived because he was fully God and fully man. And still, he got weak. He talked about his feelings. Some of you wives are elbowing your husbands right now. See, honey, you got to talk about what you're feeling. You got to let me in. And I got to say, men, your wife is right. But don't do it because she's saying it. Do it because it's what Jesus modeled for us. It's what he taught us as men. Men are meant to get weak. We're meant to say, my soul is overwhelmed with sorrow to the point of death when we are under the burden of life. That's what it looks like to be a man of God. That's what it looks like to be a follower of Jesus. It's also what it looks like to be a woman of God. But statistically, sometimes, not always, don't send me emails, sometimes women have a little easier time with this than men. We sometimes as guys have a little bit harder time saying to our male friends, my soul is overwhelmed with sorrow to the point of death when we find ourselves in those moments. But Jesus got weak. And he didn't just say it. Look what he did next. He asked for their presence. He said, stay here and keep watch with me. It's the Jesus way to get weak. Now, some of you are like, well, he wasn't really weak. He didn't really need anybody because he was God. He must have just done that as an example to us. Well, fine. Then he did it as an example to us. And we should take it as an example for us. He modeled for us in our times of burden. What this looks like is saying and staying. It means saying the burden out loud, and it means asking someone to stay with us, right? That's what we see. Then he said to them, my soul is overwhelmed with sorrow to the point of death. He said the words out of his mouth. And it also looked like asking them to stay. It looked like saying, stay here and keep watch with me. It's the Jesus way to get weak. I want you to know, I try to live my life this way. I try my best to get as weak as I can. It's so funny. Me and Joanna will go out to dinner with people or we'll be with our group, and people will be like, listen, you're carrying a lot of weight stepping into this lead pastor role of the church. You're trying to help a lot of people. You're trying to lead the staff. You're trying to do all these things. You're under a lot of pressure. Who's there helping you? And I'm like, let me tell you, I got a big get weak plan. I got two guys in their 60s, paid coaches who have led at very high levels that I get weak with, each of them once a month. One of them is a guy named Dave Workman. He pastored the Vineyard in Cincinnati. He retired recently, but he led that church for years and years and years. I talk to him once a month. The church pays for him to be my coach. I also pay for another coach out of pocket because I know I got to get real weak if I'm going to be strong enough to lead. This other guy focuses on emotional well-being for people leading organizations. I talk to that guy once a month. I get weak with both of those guys once a month. If you're watching online, I love you both. Some of you, I also get weak once a week with some guys that I've had close relationships with for years. Every Friday morning at 10 a.m., that's my day off, I talk to two guys that I've been going on this journey with for a long time. You know what we do? We get weak. We get strong and we get weak. We talk about the burdens that we're feeling. They're both leaders in various places as well. I do this with my life group as well. I'm in a life group, and at the end of each night, we split guys and girls, and the guys get together, and I get weak with those guys. I say, here's what's going on. Here's what you can pray for me for. Here's the burdens that I'm feeling. I'm not saying all this and saying, yeah, but once you become a pastor, then you can carry the weight on your own. No. The more weight that you have to carry, the more intentional you have to be about getting weak with people. Some of you guys here, and some of you women too, have so much weight on your shoulders, and you think, well, if I've got this much weight, I should be strong enough to carry it alone. No, the more weight you have, the more you have to do your very best to get weak. Amen? Now, here's the best part. When we get weak, we get ready to change the world. So many of you, the burden that you feel, you think, I can just carry this alone. And you know what? You can. But it's in the process of getting weak that we get ready to change the world. I got 2 volunteers. Come on up, guys. I want to give you a visual depiction of how this looks. We got 2 bros from the high school youth group. This is Isaac. Give Isaac a hand right here. And this is Luke. Give Luke a hand right here. You guys got some friends here. Do you have some friends here today, or are they here in first service? Some of them are here today. They did a great job with this first service. Yeah, you did. I want you to see how this works, because we are so confused about the carrying of burdens. We think, we've all got burdens. If we all share them with each other, aren't we all carrying the same amount of weight at the end, just redistributed? And that is not how it works. So I want to show you how this works. I want to load these guys up with burdens first. Let's fill up Luke's bag first. Luke's got lots of burdens. He's been working at the same place 15 years, and they might fire him. Just kidding. Look, you're like, wait, what? Isaac's got big problems in his marriage. You can see it in his eyes. He's like, oh, that's a weird joke. Whatever burdens they might have, right? And when you're in high school, man, you got burdens. Can I just say really quick, if you are a high schooler and you're trying to walk with Jesus, you are trying to walk with Jesus in one of the hardest seasons to walk with Jesus ever. Can we give a hand for all the high schoolers who are in church today? Praise the Lord. Praise the Lord. High school was probably the hardest time in my life to ever walk with Jesus. It is a dark time, let me tell you. Isaac's got some burdens as well. We're going to fit these in here. All right. Let me just zip this up. We're good. Look at that. Beautiful. Okay. Oftentimes, we think, what's the point of sharing burdens? If Luke shares his burdens with Isaac, and Isaac shares his burdens with Luke, what happens? We all stay burdened. Show us what that looks like, guys, right? Luke's like, oh, Isaac, here's what I'm going through. That you can fill it up again, or whatever. Either way. We should have zipped it up a little more. My bad. It's all good. Luke goes, Isaac, here's my burdens. And Isaac goes, Luke, here's my burdens. And now, are they any better off now? They're in the exact same spot. The weight just got switched between them. I don't want to do that. Why would I do that? It's a waste of time. Sometimes, though, we think, no, it's actually worse. If I share my burden's not going to get any lighter. I'm still going to feel the full weight of what I'm going through, and now I'm just burdening someone else. Anybody ever hear someone say, I don't want to be a burden? That's what we're talking about, right? So show us what that looks like sometimes, guys, in our mind, right? Isaac says, Luke, I lost my job. And all he's doing is just adding another burden to Luke's bag without taking anything out of his own. Some of y'all are like, oh, you're talking me out of this already. You're like, this is why I don't want to do it. Oh, yeah, that makes sense. This is why I'm not going to do it. But wait, don't go there yet. Some of us think, okay, maybe it will lighten my burden a little bit to bring it to somebody else, but it's definitely going to make their burden heavier. My burden will get lighter if I share, but their burden will get heavier. So Luke, show us what that looks like, right? Luke's got big troubles with his kids, and he shares that with Isaac. And maybe he feels a little better, but Isaac feels a little worse. These are the reasons we say, not worth it. Not worth it. I'm not going to share my burden. I'm going to keep it all to myself. Here's what's reality, though, and here's why this helps us get ready to change the world. First thing, if you are willing to share your burdens with somebody besides your immediate family, your burden will get lighter and their burden will not get heavier. Not get hardly heavier. Maybe a tiny bit, but not a lot. When you share your burdens with your spouse or your siblings or your parents, immediate family, we feel the weight of each other's burdens. But when you share with somebody you're doing life with in the Christian community, God does a miracle, a magic trick as the burden gets passed, and it leaves your bag heavy, but it doesn't go in their bag light. I mean, it doesn't go in their bag heavy, it goes in their bag light, right? Okay, so let's say Isaac lost his job. When he says, oh man, Luke, I lost my job, and he shares that burden with him, this burden, how does it feel to Luke? Some of you are like, whoa, Luke is really strong. How do you do that? It goes in light. Luke doesn't go home going, oh, honey, I feel like I just lost my job. And his wife's like, why? And he's like, well, because Isaac told me he lost his job. And she's like, what? That's not how it works. When we share our burdens, God actually lowers the total amount of burden between the two bags. What was one brick worth in Isaac's bag does not go into Luke's bag with a full brick's worth of weight. It's the same number of bricks, it's the same number of burden, but the total weight got lighter. Now maybe Isaac's losing his job burden was 3 bricks worth, right? And maybe it only gets rid of 1 brick of burden, but there is still an overall lessening of the burden. This is like a little math problem, you guys. It's like one of those things, if Isaac has 3 burdens and Luke has 4 burdens, right? And 1 burden gets subtracted, in like one of those word problems from school. But track with me. Do you see what I'm saying? It's the same situation, but the total weight between their 2 bags got lighter. Now here's what's even more amazing too. Sometimes their burden gets even lighter. Like there were burdens in Luke's bag that get removed when Isaac shares Isaac's burden with Luke. You know why? Because Luke gets perspective. Because Luke's had a tough boss, and one of his burdens is, oh, my boss is so mean and harsh to me. And then Isaac says, hey, I just lost my job. And Luke goes, I can put that burden down. I don't have to feel the weight of my tough boss anymore because now I've got perspective on the burden that Isaac was feeling. Sometimes Luke might actually lose another burden because he feels a sense of purpose. Not only does he get perspective, but he gets purpose. He goes, hey, I have purpose in my life now by helping Isaac walk this out. And there are burdens that Luke was holding on to that he doesn't have to hold on to anymore because now he's got a bigger purpose of helping somebody else. Amen? Isaac's burden gets a little bit lighter. Luke's burden doesn't get a lot heavier. And then Luke's burden actually gets a little bit lighter because he gets purpose and perspective. Lastly, we create surplus strength. You guys see when people like walk with like weights on or something? Or when people, what's like another good example? There was another thing I was just thinking of. I can't think of it. But it's like when you're training in the gym for something, or like you run in the pool to work on your running, and then when you get out of the pool, you're like, wow, I could run so fast, or whatever it is. There are other ways of doing it. I'm blanking right now on how it works, but you know what I'm saying. When we go through life feeling all of this weight on our own, we get strong in a way. And then as those burdens get lightened, all that strength that we were using is still good for something. It's now good for carrying the weight of the world outside of our world. When these burdens get passed back and forth, show us how that works, guys. When Isaac says, listen, here's my thing. Every time it goes from Isaac's bag to Luke's, it gets a little lighter in Isaac's bag, and it doesn't get much heavier in Luke's bag. When Luke passes to Isaac, his bag gets a little lighter, and Isaac doesn't get much heavier. None of the situation has actually changed. None of the circumstances have actually changed. But now, these bricks that were previously weighing both these guys down, what do they look like? What do those bags look like after it gets carried back and forth? Show us, show us, show us. Look at that. Look at that. Strong men, right? These guys didn't get any stronger. They didn't get any more powerful. All that happened is their burden bag got lighter, and now they've got strength for the world. There are some of you in this room that you are so focused on being strong and not asking for any help, you're using all your strength on your burden. And God says, I want you to use some of that strength for the world, for the people around you that you don't know. God has a purpose for you, and you have to get some of that off of your shoulders. When we get weak, we get ready to change the world. Amen? Can you give these guys a big round of applause? Great job, guys. Great job. This is why we do life group. We do life group to get strong and get weak. Now again, if some of you already have Christian friends and a circle of Christian friends, you don't need to join a life group. You need to just do everything we're talking about in this series with the group of Christian friends you already have. You got to get real and get restored, and you got to get strong and you got to get weak. But many of you are like, listen, I work with all people that don't know Jesus. I don't know how to make Christian friends. And I've been coming to the bridge, and I still don't know how to make Christian friends because it's hundreds of people going in, hundreds of people going out. When do we actually meet the people? When do I actually find people to do life together with? Because I got to get it together. And so I need people I can do life together with. That is the purpose of a life group, is to do life together with people you're following Jesus with. If you've never done any kind of group, it might be the best first step to join a Connect group. And some of you should always be in a Connect group because there's things that you can learn, etc. But the life group is the place where we do this, where we carry each other's burdens, where we get strong and we get weak. I want to close with a story from a guy named Ben. Come on up, Ben. We got all sorts of stuff going on in the service today. We got bricks, we got backpacks, we got Ben Moore. Give Ben a hand. This is what we're going to close with. That's a good round of applause, man. That's good. That's more than I've ever gotten. I love that. I love that. Ben is in a life group, and Ben did not want to join a life group at all. And when he was sharing some of his story with me, I thought, man, Ben, how you feel is pretty much how everybody feels. I don't know these people. I kind of like the idea of having close friends, but I don't like the idea of getting plopped in a group of people that I don't know half of them, maybe I don't know all of them, and then I'm just supposed to like become friends with them. It sounds crazy for so many of us, and that's how Ben felt before he joined, and that's actually how you felt after you joined.
Yeah,
as well, right? For the first little bit. So Ben, tell us, what was kind of your journey before joining a life group? All the stuff we plan on sharing. Go ahead.
Yeah, absolutely. So I've been at the church for about 12 years, and what I started realizing after a while was I have a lot of friendships, or I like to call them friendships, but I have a whole lot of acquaintance. So if you're my friend, don't go, wait a minute, we're not friends? But at the same time, we didn't have a lot of deep stuff.
Yeah.
Like the people that I knew that I've been in groups with, like Connect groups, and I volunteered and started realizing that I don't have people in my life that knew what was going on in my life.
Right.
Like if you had asked Mark Lyon, hey Mark Lyon, do you know what to pray for Ben Moore? No, not really.
He wouldn't know
really.
this stuff.
He'd know that I want a donut that he can't give me right now, and make sure that I have hot coffee.
Mark Lyon's the cafe leader, and he does a great job.
But nothing real deep.
Right.
And for that matter, it'd been that way for quite a while. I really didn't have a lot of deep relationships. You know, you get out of high school, you may still keep some relationships with high school or college, but then you get married, and hopefully your spouse is your best friend, which luckily for me, my wife is my best friend. But then you lose your other friends because of differing opinion on things. They go their own way, and you suddenly go, I don't have any other friends. And it's not like, wah, 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 because you're like, hey, you know what? I'm doing life with my wife, and this is what you're supposed to do. And kind of like examples that you made around, you feel like I have to be strong. So my problems, they can't be problems.
Right.
So I'm just going to do it.
Yeah, that's good. Yeah. I think most men feel like you're the only guy that doesn't have close friends. But I think 90% of guys don't naturally find themselves in close friendships with other guys. So anyway, so you got stuck in a life group.
Yeah, well,
What happened? How did
I
that go?
didn't sign up for the youth group. I mean, I love my wife, and some other people that were in the life group that they signed up, and they put my name down right alongside everybody else, and
Just
it was
wrote
like,
it in there.
hey, by the way, we're going to show up at life group next week, and we're going to start this, and it's like, what's life group?
Right.
I've done connect groups. I'm good with that. 6 weeks, and boom, we're done.
Right.
And it was like, what's life group? Okay, we'll go.
Yeah, and then the first few weeks, you were like, I don't like this at all.
It was a little touchy-feely.
We're trying to talk about life, and this feels awkward, and I know a couple people in here, but I don't know the rest. What brought you to the turning point where it became meaningful?
So, number one, of course, we were all at home, so we were on Zoom by this point.
Mm-hmm.
And one of our activities that we had to do was we had to tell our life story.
Yeah.
Now, I'm a Christian brat that's been in church my entire life, so we know our testimony kind of story. So I was like, well, I know my testimony, but I don't, to tell my life story and kind of highs, lows, spill my guts, get ugly, and, I had total honesty. Whatever I wanted to give was what I was allowed to give.
Right.
And
right.
I was
Total
like,
freedom to share it all.
Absolutely. If I didn't want to show stuff that I wasn't ready to come out of the closet yet on certain topics, that was up to me. And it was like, okay, I'll kind of share and, dump my guts on Zoom, which is loads of fun, by the way. And so after getting done with that and kind of getting it out of me, I mean, to use a very overly technical term, catharsis, getting things outside of me felt good.
Right.
And, once you get over that point, you're like, okay, well, it's done. And for that matter, you did it.
Yep.
The other people in our group did it. And I was like, oh, wow, we know a lot of stuff. Can we write this stuff down? This could be incriminating. No. It's like, no.
Blackmail list.
This is great. Yeah. The things we know.
Right.
But at the same time, it was like, now we have kind of this baseline to be able to talk to each other. And that's kind of next step.
Right.
Is going from that point on a week-to-week basis when it was sitting in our guys group, when we would split up, what's going on in your life? What are you doing? What are you struggling with? Do you need a attaboy? Do you need, just something to keep you going? Are you good? Do you just need do you have a praise report or whatever?
Right,
and
right.
I already knew that this group of guys knew my dirt. So.
Right. And you knew theirs too.
Absolutely.
Everybody knew everybody.
And so it was exactly that. We could carry each other's burdens.
Yeah.
Because they already knew what my baseline was.
Right.
And they know as they sit at home, if they're like, I don't even know what to pray for right now. Well, I know that Ben's going through this. I'm going to focus on Ben today.
Yeah.
I'm going to focus on Vince today.
Yeah.
I'm going to focus on the other guys on our team. We absolutely knew a game plan now. We had good information that we could utilize.
Yeah. Amen. So good. What would you say, Ben, to somebody here who's like, I'm thinking about doing a life group, but I don't know. I'm still a little freaked out.
No.
You're like, just have someone else sign you up.
Right. Yeah, just have somebody else sign you up and put you in an awkward position. Don't say no. That was number one, first and foremost, my best advice is don't say no, because you leave an open opportunity for God to work on you.
Yeah.
Because when you say no, you're like, it's not going to happen. But just don't say no. You don't have to say yes right now, but stay open.
Yeah, that's good. Hey, let's give Ben a hand. So good. Let's stand up. I'm going to send you out. That's it. That is it for today. Get strong, get weak. Do it with people around you who are going down the same path as you. If you do not have those people to get strong and get weak with, join a life group. Join a life group. If you do have those people already, get strong, get weak. If you are here today and you do not have a relationship with Jesus, I want to close the service by giving you an opportunity to say yes to a relationship with Jesus for the very first time. If you've prayed the prayer to become a Christian before, you do not need to pray it again. It's a one and done deal. But I know that some of you came here today looking for God, and we don't want you to leave without being able to say yes to a relationship with Him. I'm going to lead you through a prayer to give your life to Jesus. If you've already prayed this prayer and you want to just pray it along, you're welcome to. But if you're praying this prayer for the first time today, after the service, I want you to come down and talk to somebody on the prayer team. Prayer team, you can come forward right now, just so that they see you and can be ready. If you are saying yes to a relationship with Jesus for the first time today, at the end of the service, come down and talk to somebody on the prayer team. Also, after the service, if you just need prayer for a 1 brick or 2 brick or 3 brick thing in your life that you want somebody to carry that burden with you, come down for prayer as well. This team of people loves praying for people. They would love to pray for you. Right now, I'm going to lead us through a prayer of giving your life to Jesus. Again, if you want to pray along with me, even though you've prayed it before, you're welcome to. But if you're praying it for the first time, come down after we do it. This is the prayer of surrender to Jesus. Say, "Dear Jesus, I know I've been running. I'm sorry for what I've done. I turn away from my old life, and I turn to you. I thank you for forgiving me, and I surrender my life to you. I love you, and I thank you for loving me." In Jesus' name, everybody said. Again, if that was your first time praying that prayer, come down right now. Everybody else, we love you so much. We thank you so much for coming, and we will see you next week for part 4 and our conclusion of Life Together. Have a great week.